Hey, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And guess what we're talking about? Hair. Yes, we're going to be discussing the anatomy of your scalp, the formation of hair, and then how that leads to your particular curl pattern. So let's get started. Your scalp has three layers: an epidermis, dermis, and a hypodermis. The epidermis is the layer that you can see. Everything else underneath that is actually your most important layer, and the important layer is your hypodermis. This is the foundation of your scalp. If you lose this layer, you cannot grow hair. You also will be unable to regrow skin. So individuals that have had chemotherapy treatments in which the foundation of their hair has been so severely damaged from the medication will not be able to regrow hair. If you've been burned all the way down to this hypodermis area, if you've had a severe infection, once you lose this layer, there is no return of hair. You must then use artificial, which would be through wigs, or get a hair transplant. Now, our hair is made up of protein, and it's a three-layer system. The core of our hair is called the medulla. Surrounding that is called the cortex, and around that is the cuticle. The cuticle is the layer that we see, and that is made up of keratin. And so that is these three layers put together make up our hair. But the one that we can see on the outside is our keratin. Now, hair requires nutrients. And in order to get those nutrients, you need a supply. So our hair down here is called the hair bulb. Just like a flower has a bulb or a seed, or your hair has the basic building blocks begins in the hair bulb, and that needs nutrition. And so that comes through our blood supply. And so we have an artery, which brings blood in, brings the nutrition in. We have a vein that takes away the toxins and the deoxygenated blood. And then we have the yellow in between the two, which is our lymphatics, which has to do with inflammation and infection. Now, again, our hair bulb, like I said, is the foundation of your hair. Everything begins in the bulb. So that, like I said in the previous slide, that is where our blood supply comes in. That is where we get our hormonal effects. So our thyroid hormone, if you are producing an excess amount of androgens, that will affect the growth of your hair. So these hormonal effects can either slow down or increase hair growth. And then we have lymphatics that has to do with infection, and that is also within the hair bulb, as well as other layers of our skin, but I'm just focusing on the foundation of our hair. And the last thing is hair color. Hair color comes from melanocytes. Those are the little tiny cells that live in the hair bulb that produce melanin. The color that you produce is genetically determined, so that cannot be changed. You can dye your hair, but you can never change the hair that grows from your scalp, that color. Now, the only way you can get a permanent change is when those melanocytes die and they no longer produce melanin, and then you get gray hair. Like we really want gray hair, but then you get gray hair. Our sebaceous gland is a gland that produces sebum. Sebum is a waxy, oily substance. It covers our scalp, it covers our hair. So it acts as a barrier for our scalp to protect it from infection through chemical trauma, from whatever we apply to it. It also produces a barrier to retain moisture. It as well as acts as an anti-inflammatory. So if there's a bacteria on our hair, it tries to uh, combat that as well as minimize any irritation to the scalp. Now, too much sebum can cause problems. In particular, we've all had it, acne. Some of us are blessed where they never have this problem with acne. Some of us are not blessed with that. And then we have keratin plugs. Keratin plug is when the keratin builds up and blocks off the follicle opening at the scalp. And then the hair gets stuck in the epidermis dermis layer. Our hair muscle, which is entitled the Arector Pili muscle, has to do with whether our hair stands or whether it's laying down. When we are cold, when we are scared, that erector papilla muscle will contract and our hair will stand up. When we are comfortable in a safe environment, our hair lays down. Hair shape, is determined by our follicle shape. So if you have a nice round follicle, you get a nice straight hair because the hair doesn't have, there's no resistance to it coming out from your scalp. If you have a slightly more oval pattern, you get a nice wavy hair. If you have what's entitled a type 3, that follicle shape is a bit more narrow, and so you get a nice spiral pattern. For A and for B, that follicle shape is even more narrow, and you get a tightly coiled or tightly spiraled hair shape. For C, the follicle shape is so um, it is so narrow that the hair just kind of squeaks out and it comes out in a Z-type pattern. This is a picture of my hair, and I have Texlax hair, and so if you can see, I've got multiple different curl patterns, and a lot of us do. I've got 4C hair, I've got some 3 coily patterned hair, so we all have different curl patterns within our hair. We do tend to have a predominant one, but we all have different curl patterns. Now, our future topics will be hair growth. In particular, we'll talk about what are the phases of hair growth and then what can affect our hair, diabetes and hair loss, thyroid disease, alopecia, autoimmune infection, and then self-inflicted hair loss. We'll also talk about in future videos. Thanks for watching. I hope you thought this was informative. Please comment if you've got questions. Write it in the comment box. Subscribe, share, and rate. Thank you again.